look, I want to wait till Waters hops on to get his thoughts and opinions. We'll talk to him about this as well too, but this just happened just literally moments before the show started. So let's talk about that. Micah Bora, who, which is an interesting one, from Georgia, was committed to, or almost committed to Georgia, I think, decommitted from us, and ultimately ended up committing back to Florida. Twitter is having a heyday with this happening as well. Let me read you what happened here in Atlanta, mind you. Them Georgia police, they don't play
Hey,
games.
no, they don't. No,
God,
they don't.
he was doing 86 miles an hour in his black 2018 BMW on I-75, just north of town around 10 p.m. Pulled out to make a stop. Micah turned off his lights and sped up to 150 miles an hour. He drove recklessly, radically changing lanes and driving through traffic at speeds at more than 100 miles an hour, passing vehicles on the shoulder. He entered the rest area near mile marker 178, drove through the rest area, and nearly stopped at the exit before quickly accelerating and entering back onto the interstate. My goodness. As Sullivan went around the curve at a mile marker 176, he briefly lost sight of Bora. When the corporal came out of the curve, he saw a wrecked Chevrolet Malibu in the median. Sullivan stopped and ran to the Malibu, which was heavily damaged in the rear. The driver, Derek Thompson, you know what's really weird about this?
What's that?
I'm
Got hit in the rear?
No, I have an employee that drives a Chevy Malibu. She was texting me today that she got spun off the road.
Maybe it was her.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to text her now. But this is wild. Like, she didn't even make it to work today. She seen me because her car shut off on the way to work today. She's like, "Yeah, I got spun off and hit a pole." We'll see. Oh no, because the driver's 58 years old. It's not her. I should have kept writing. The driver, Derek Thompson, 58, was injured. In Sullivan Summit, Sullivan returning his patrol car when he saw Burrow's BMW with Burrow walking on the shoulder. Burrow was ordered to the ground. He was then secured in Bogdan's patrol car. He was traveling back to the school in Florida, and then he fled because his license was suspended. A colored plastic bag containing marijuana was found inside the BMW. He admitted ownership. He consented to a blood test, and EMS completed a blood draw at Monroe County Jail. I think he has been released. He's been charged with he was charged with fleeing, serious injury by vehicle, and possession of marijuana less than an ounce. So we were talking before the show. There's people in the chat, obviously, like, now this opens up a scholarship. You're hearing possibly it doesn't look like they will move on from Micah. I didn't think they would when I first heard this noise. I'll give my thoughts, and people are not going to like this. I understand that, but I'll give you my thoughts in about a minute. What are your thoughts on it, Dave? And you're, like I said, you're hearing that it seems like, again, this is early. Who knows what could happen? But as of now, it seems that he will remain on the team.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not part of the 8-phase process. I can guarantee you that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've heard behind the scenes that they're considering keeping him on the team. I mean, this is a lot of people will say, look, hey, look, we got Urban Meyer back. Billy Napier's got a little bit of that Urban in him there. But no, I mean, you got a situation like this with a kid, and obviously I made the joke out there that said, man, we should have never flipped him from Georgia. We should have just let him stay over there. I mean, that was a Georgia boy born and bred, right? But you look at a situation like that, it doesn't favor anybody in this scenario anyway. You hit somebody, you injure them. On top of that, could have killed him in a way. When you look at a situation, it's not a funny situation for anybody, no matter what school that they're apart from. And of course, going 150 miles an hour, I mean, that is insane, dude. Like that could kill you. So it's like, I mean, kids will be kids. They're going to make mistakes. And Billy Napier, I mean, you got to look at it. Ever since he came to this program, he's been pretty good at keeping kids out of trouble. Now you're starting to hear something sort of, kind of cooking up there. And of course, like, you're not going to have a perfect streak as a head coach. You're going to have kids get in trouble. It's not like the stuff that we've heard at Penn State earlier today, which we'll get into later on in the show. But it's still a serious situation. And, as I said, from what I've heard, it looks like they may keep him on the team, but it's a Billy Napier decision, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, I see some guys, Justin saying, dude, he ran from the cops. He's gone. And this is where I hate these kind of conversations, because there's two sides to this. You're either like, yep, he should be gone, and that very old mentality of like, look, you blew this opportunity. You have the other side of it, and I go back to the episode of Swamp Kings where Urban was like, look, I have a hard time cutting kids. Although kids get cut all the time, I understand these things. Look, it's, and you and I were talking at the beginning of the show. Here's the problem. Some people are going to say, make an example, cut him so it doesn't happen again. News alert, it's going to happen again. It's going to continue to happen. And you're like, well not unless you... Go ahead.
Surprise, Kirby Smart's not making examples out of anybody.
that goes back to it. Is like, look, you're in this weird era now. Look, these things were happening, I think, obviously for years now. Social media has opened these things up way more than what had ever happened before. And now you're also handing a kid 17 years old with, $250,000 more than he's ever had in his entire life. They have an ego. They feel like I'm above the law. All these things happen. Mistakes happen. I'm not condoning the actions. However, if you feel like, well, Florida should be, they're bigger, the brand's bigger than that. And I know there's gonna be a lot of bull gators in here saying the brand's bigger than that. We should cut him. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But I don't think Billy is gonna be the first guy to make that move, right? Because what's gonna happen is Ole Miss is gonna come in and get him for free. No, someone else is going to ignore what happened. That's usually how this works, and not everybody's gonna agree that, yep, we're gonna go ahead and hold these kids accountable. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. That's just the fact of the matter. The other thing is, it's his first offense. Fortunately, worse things haven't happened. As of now, we don't know what happened with the driver. But thankfully, as of now, nothing seriously has happened. But look, it's not a great look. You're running from the cops, speeding, crash. I mean, it's not the most favorable thing. So I'm not condoning this by any stretch of the imagination. But it's an opportunity, in my opinion, to take the kid in and say, look, you made a big mistake. Are you willing to own up to this and work through this and get better at it? We don't want to just throw you to the curb, because this also reminds me, and again, everyone's going to throw this. This is much different. I understand there's always levels to the crime that you've committed. So that always has a factor into it. And everyone's line is different. With the Marcus Stokes situation, which we talked about, obviously saying the N-word, Florida didn't even blink. They go, you're gone. Now that seems like, again, a little bit crazy of like, well, just work through it. Like, hey, made a mistake. We're going to bring him in and make it happen. A little bit different situation, I guess, given the fact that he wasn't a commit yet. So all those things are something to consider. And look, this is perfect timing, as you and I have both given our thoughts. I don't know if Mr. Waters was ready for this, but, he's a professional. So we're going to just throw him right into the fire here. Mr. Dave Waters.
What it is?
Well,
What's up?
welcome to the show. While you're away,
Yeah.
Florida has started on their prisoning campaign and their inmate program. So I don't know if you've had a chance to read this or look into this, but I imagine you're quick with it. Have you heard what happened with Florida here?
Yeah. I think Dave put it out there. She just left him at Georgia. That was kind of funny, but uh, unfortunate. I mean, of course, just coming off the heels of the Rashada thing, and I mean, we were just riding this big wave of momentum last week, and then the last 2 days kind of just get slapped in the face a little bit with some negative news. Pretty bad, I think, in the description of what happened there, and fleeing, and that's certainly not the best look there. So back in Gainesville, and we'll see how Napier. Somebody said it best in Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. Now is not a good time to be on Napier's bad side after probably what come out yesterday. Yeah, I can't imagine it's pretty for Macabre right now.
What are your thoughts? Because right now we were talking, whether he'd be cut for the team. If what we're hearing now is that isn't feel like he would be cut. What is your thought and opinion about it? It's always a tough situation. Again, we don't always have all the details. I think that's always a big factor. What we're reading isn't great, but it's hard. What other side is there to this? But again, the circumstances, how you address it. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not usually, unless it's really egregious. I don't think this is really egregious, but I'm usually a second chance guy. And you get your second chance and prove that you can, rehab your image a bit. I think that's
Sure.
what a lot of this will be. I mean, I know Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen, they all kind of cut from that same cloth of, unless it's really bad, unless it's really egregious, we'll give you a chance. One mistake shouldn't, be your reputation as a college football player, and kind of doom you there. So definitely learn from your mistakes. Certainly got to pay some type of punishment. Absolutely,
Sure.
is what you got to expect here. But no, I'd keep him on the team.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was coming. I was like, look, like there's a line of what is really egregious, and that line differs for some people. Fortunately,
Sure.
this didn't, I feel like, go worse. Because again, in my opinion, the DUI situation, those are pretty egregious. Fortunately, if no one ever gets involved, it's like, look, you made a bad decision, you put yourself in jeopardy, and that's as far as it went. And that's now someone else's life, they got injured. We don't know the severity of it, but it doesn't sound like it was an extreme injury with Derek Thompson. So as of now, prayers for Derek Thompson, which was the driver. But from the sound of it, like you said, it wasn't that big of a line. Look, let's move on from this horrible news and go on to some more horrible news.